This is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, and we're here to build autonomous athletes and put phenomenal programming into every garage, basement, and spare bedroom out there. I'm Jerred Moon, and I'm with Joe Courtney. We are strength and conditioning coaches who have turned over 20,000 people into garage gym athletes over the last decade. And we're here to reduce the information overload that exists in the health and fitness industry today. We're going to do that by covering relevant science and give actionable takeaways, not only from the data, but from our years of experience. So let's dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, what's up, man?
Not much. We're going to skip over the personal updates because we have a lot to cover, and we're not going to get through all of it. I told Joe, I was like, hey, man, I want to do something. I don't want to cover a study, but here are like some thoughts of things I want to cover. Let's prep for. So I'm going to give you like this broad base of what we want to cover, and these could end up being individual podcast episodes by themselves. But here are all the ideas. I'm going to say them all without the expectation of having to get through all of them in one podcast episode. But we do want to hit on where the fitness industry is headed compared to like 2011, 2012 timeframe, which is when like Into 3 Fitness Garage Gym Athlete was getting started. And Joe has an article from the ACSM that talked about fitness trends back then to now, and we'll also kind of contrast that with like just our own personal experiences and views from what's happened over a decade plus in fitness. We also want to talk about garage gyms, what the evolution has been. Would love to talk more about kids, fitness, garage gyms, those kind of things, how they all play together. And then lastly, our thoughts with fitness and AI, especially tech, wearables, and all of those kind of things. So those are all the topics. We're going to start from where I began that topic tree, and then we'll get as far as we can here in a shorter version of the podcast, and then maybe carry some of these on to other episodes. Would love your feedback. Any garage gym athletes out there listening, if you like these type of episodes, good or bad, whether you like it or don't like it, would love to hear back from you inside the community. Just let us know and give us that feedback. So let's start with where the fitness industry has been and where it's headed. So I'll throw it over to you, Joe, to kind of read off some of these trends that aren't just what we think the trends are, like more legitimate trends from the ACSM.
Yeah, so they have a journal. I guess they post it every year, and they take a survey for a bunch of people in, like, I think the fitness community, different ages, different certifications. They even have like a chart on here that says what level certifications people have. So people in the fitness kind of world, and I think some people outside of the world. And so looking at the 20, I'll just go to the top 12. They post a top 20 each year. So the top 5 for 2012, and number 1 is educated, certified, and experienced fitness professionals. So I'm guessing like coaches. People were wanting those a lot in 2012. 2 is strength training. 3 is fitness programs for older adults. 4 is exercise and weight loss. 5 is children and obesity. So kind of broad, I think, with those. And
exercise and weight loss, like,
yeah,
that's like, I don't know. I mean, that's always gonna be a trend. I'm surprised it's not number 1 every year, but okay.
Yeah. And I think in 2023, it's some of them seem to get a little bit more specific. But the top 5 in 2023. Now, this is only 10, 11 years difference. Number 1 is wearable technology, and in 20.
See, I even wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, in 2012, it wasn't even on the top 20. So I don't even know when it would have. So within the last 10 years, it went from 0, not even listed, to number 1. 2 is strength training with free weight. So strength training is stayed at number 2. Pretty consistent. That's kind of cool. Number 3 is body weight training. 4 fitness programs for older adults. So again, older adults being up there. And then 5 is functional fitness training. So a little bit more specific and a little bit more honestly geared toward, what like this 5 is basically a lot of things that we cover and even do. The exercise for weight loss is broad. It fell down to number 8. Let's see. I thought I saw no. So the top 5 is a decent amount of trend difference, especially with specificity, but also the wearables that get in there. Just outside, so number 6, I'm going to note this one, is outdoor activities. And I note that because in 2012, it was number 14, and it was the first time it made an appearance. So outdoor activities has really ramped up as well. People getting outside and doing more there.
That's interesting. Yeah, it seems like the top 5 in 2023 have moved more to like specific modalities and not these broader topics. It's like functional fitness, strength training. I mean, strength training was in the earlier example too. And I feel like what's happened, and kind of, we kind of have the more objective view of what fitness professionals feel like the trends are. But, just kind of my view of like what I've seen over the last decade is what's happened is information accessibility has just exploded. Back in that time frame, like that's when like Instagram first started and people were only using it to take pictures of like that had like these really aggressive filters on it, and it was of food typically. Like that was all Instagram's purpose was. There was no video, there was no live, there was no anything else. And Instagram's not the only thing that has blown up. There's TikTok, there's YouTube, and then there's even podcasting. I've been pretty much podcasting since around that time frame, or a little bit later than that. But all of these things have exploded. So I think our ability to access information has drastically changed. And we've talked about this on the podcast before, but that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It's like, it's a great thing because if you want to learn something from some expert now, and that's one thing I don't want to go off on like a podcast tangent, but what was crazy is when I first started podcasting, it was, let's just say it was like regular dudes. It was like guys like me and guys I knew, and we were getting a lot of traction like in all these different industries. But now it's like a famous actor will have a podcast, or a billionaire will have a podcast. It's like people who didn't even want to touch podcasting back in the day. And that's the same with these like really high end, like our super, intelligent professors. Like all these people, they weren't doing it. It was so fringe. The health and fitness, everything was so fringe. It was like, to give an example, like the Dave Aspreys of the world were like the most popular guys back then. And he was just like kind of psychotic in a way. He's just like talking about like all these crazy things, like how he's taking 1,000 different supplements a day to try and live longer and all this stuff. And he was finding obscure science to kind of back it up, but there was no one to kind of like, go against that grain. And now it's definitely aggressively shift, but with that comes a lot of negativity of information overwhelm. You don't know what to do. I don't know if a plant's killing me. I don't know if meat's killing me. I don't know if water's killing me, or if I'm doing the wrong type of fitness and that's killing me. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of bad information out there that now people have to weed out through that we didn't have to before. Like we honestly could have a really good conversation on a podcast and just try and get to like some sort of truthful answer. And now it's like, well, it's got to be as controversial as possible. And I think that's led people in going back to the positive side of it, seeing that fitness trend where it's only like, oh, I only do fitness if I'm trying to lose weight. What those trends show me is that people now have access to the realization that strength training is important, functional fitness is important, getting outside is important, and they're able to like go down any path they want and get the information they need to be really good at these things. And so that's the good of all this like growth, not, stepping away from that negativity, is like, there's so much good that's come from the information that's published, produced, the quality, kind of like a checks and balances on creator versus creator. So a lot of good has come from it. And I think it's gotten a lot of people into fitness who probably wouldn't otherwise be into it. Like if you even go back 2010, maybe pre-2010, if you were really into training, like even that was kind of fringe. Like it was kind of like you didn't know very many people. If you just think about like growing up, like did you have a lot of friends' dads who were like aggressively training for anything? Like that wasn't a common thing. And for us, that was like the 90s basically, right? And fitness wasn't even much of a thing going back to like 70s and 80s. So like it just wasn't that thing. I remember I had a friend whose dad was an Ironman triathlete when I was in the 5th grade, and I just thought that was insanity. I was like, I'd never heard of anyone doing anything like that. Granted, I'm only in the 5th grade. I'm like, whatever, 12 years old. I don't know how old you are in the 5th grade, but I had never heard of that. None of my friends, nobody knew anybody who trained for something like that. And now it's like, yeah, I mean, there's every other household now. There's someone who's like at least running like an ultra marathon or something like that. It's a lot more common, and I don't just mean from a social media standpoint. I mean, I just run into people randomly who are doing some pretty awesome things. So I've seen a lot of good come from this spread of knowledge.
Yeah, the dads on our block growing up, they either played some sort of like pickup game, rec league, like pickup basketball on the weekends, or my dad played softball a little bit here and there for a league. It was like that and yard work, and that was like the dad's MO.
That was my dad, like hardcore. It was yard work. I hated it because that was like just our weekend was like we were gonna do yard work, and yeah. But yeah, man, it's been quite a transition. Like I said, from being this fringe, more of like people not being able to associate themselves with fitness, but I think it's made it very approachable for most people, which I think is the best part of it.
Yeah, I
and
think
more people are into it than ever.
Yeah, and I just another thing for these trends is, and it's funny how toward the end, it shows a mindset shift, and that is so in the end of 2012, or the bottom toward the list of 2012, there were things on the list like worker incentive programs, physician referrals. So that's like, to me, that's not like a healthy mindset. It's like, hey, what can I get as an incentive? And then just referrals for doctors and stuff. But in 2023, toward the end of the list, 15 is exercise is medicine, 16 is lifestyle medicine, and 19 is health and well-being coaching.
That was all 2023, right?
Yeah, the last three were all 2023.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're moving in a positive direction, but part of it is why. Is it the fact that we are fatter and sicker than we've ever been as a society? So it's become a necessity.
Maybe people find that they actually need to take health into their own hands and not worry about, the whatever healthcare system they're subject to.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this idea on the Better Human Business podcast, which, if you didn't know, I had another podcast. I do short 10-minute episodes just about business and really self-development stuff. You can go check it out. But I talked about this idea of how I really think that it's time, like we have to protect our brains. And I'm talking specifically about artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, all these kind of things. They can do so much work for us that it can remove our ability to have to think critically. And what I'm not saying with something like that is I'm not saying, hey, don't use AI, don't use ChatGPT. I think that's the wrong answer. Yeah, I think it's only become more and more integrated into our lives, maybe even to our actual bodies and minds. And so you have to embrace it, but I think you have to set out ways to keep your mind sharp. Like you're going to have to decide, like, you know what? And it could be anything, but you're gonna have to start exercising your brain. You're gonna have to like open up a math workbook and go through it, just to like get your brain moving, get it exercising. There are lots of apps that do these things, but I feel like that's going to become a necessity as brains start to somewhat atrophy and people get dumber because they don't have to go through any problem solving. And we're right at the beginning of this, and I honestly believe that that's where we're headed. I think it'll take a while for it to all play out, but I'm fairly confident that's what's going to happen. Like the average person is going to be so much less smart than people are right now in 10, 15 years because of what AI is going to take away from us. Having said that, you can be the person now with AI who starts exercising their brain. You can bypass all the problems, but that's essentially what happened with fitness, right? Is like there were some people who could see, oh wow, like fast food's getting out of control, the processed food's getting out of control, we're sitting down a lot more. And some people saw through all that crap and they were like, I'm going to choose to do made up work, i.e. fitness. I'm going to choose to do fitness. I'm going to run. I'm going to lift a heavy load. I'm going to do all these things. And they bypassed being overweight. They bypass being sedentary. They bypass all these things because they decided now or back then that they were going to do fitness. And so I think that decision is now greatly realized by people. Like it's just a matter, like you have to do it. It's whether you want to lose weight, be healthy, you want your brain to look better, you want your brain to work better, or you want to look better, you have to do fitness. You have to do those things. And I think it's becoming more of a, not this fringe thing like, oh, you're into that, that's cool. I bake, you work out. It's more like everyone has to work out. And I think that's becoming realized. And I don't want to hit on that anymore, but I just feel like that's the biggest trend I've seen is like, it used to be almost this hobbyist odd thing, not odd, but like not a lot of people were into fitness to like, now everybody knows that they should have some sort of fitness routine. And it's whether like shame that they don't do it or they're trying to fit something in, so it's not really like this, oh, you're one of those people. It's like, yeah, I should be one of those people too.
Yeah. And I mean, information can be a double-edged sword. Like there's a ton of bad information out there and bad influencers that go to demonize things or like you just don't know what to believe. But then at the same time, there's also way more good information out there and way more efficient ways to learn to do things of like, hey, you don't need to go and beat yourself up in the gym for 30, 60, 90 minutes in the day. You can just do something you can do something moderate for 30 minutes and it'd be fine. You just lift one or two, a couple things heavy once or twice a week and then go out for a walk, get your heart rate up for, 20, 30 minutes and you'll be a lot better than you were before. You don't have to do all these crazy things. And, even if it's spaced out throughout the day.
Yeah. And I'd say all the negative content that I see on social media, or let's just say bad. I don't want to say it's negative. They're not like trying to be negative, but like people coming out with like, more scary based fitness and health stuff, like things that are bad for you, is like, it's all these like half truths. And I used to get really excited about this stuff early on in my fitness journey. When I'd research things, like I'd find something like beetroot juice, right? Found that like back in the day and I'd get super excited about it and I'd want people to know about it. So I'd write a blog post about it and people, it'd be discovered and people would be excited too. And like that kind of perpetuated for a while, even with me, where I'm like, I'd find one singular thing, one singular modality, right? And I'd want to share it with people. But the problem comes when people are thinking that one thing is some sort of solution. And I think that's what's happening more now. Because anytime I found a singular thing, I never really thought like, oh, this is it. I've got beetroot juice now. Like that is all I need. Like I'm good to go. Or the same thing happens with like single ingredients. This happens with supplement companies. It happens with people creating content online. Is they'll be like, this has this ingredient, it's going to kill you. And it's like, well, maybe not. Or it might be like, this has this one singular ingredient in the supplement, and so it's going to help you so much. It's like, well, you're probably not getting enough for that to be true. And so like this whole point of singularity, it's like this one thing's going to help, this one supplement, this one ingredient's going to kill you. None of that's really true. And I think if you can kind of realize that, like everything's big picture, like everything has to be taken, with a grain of salt to some degree. Like there are no quick fixes. There are no quick deaths. You know what I mean? There's no like from food or like some chemical, like unless you're getting injected with like a poison, like eating McDonald's today, if I go do that for lunch, is not going to kill me. I'll actually probably be just fine. I don't want to do that, but I'm just saying like, it's not like I'm truly eating poison. And I'm not saying
eat McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm not saying go eat McDonald's either. Like there is a lot of bad there, but I'm saying like these singular decisions or singular ingredients or singular things that are going to save you or kill you. There's not a lot of truth to any of that. You just have to look at the big picture for all these things.
Yeah, it's hard to say if things. I guess. Well, yeah, it's hard to like really know if people have gotten more dogmatic and more like pigeonholed into certain whatever they believe. There's just more of it out there. So I guess it's all sort of balances out for either the hyper focused people and then the more general type people.
Well, I've always said on the podcast, like we've got the most boring message out there. like the
Yeah.
least sexy. It's like, hey, we're gonna need you to exercise, do some
Moderately.
strength training. Yeah, we need you to do some low intensity, some high intensity, some moderate intensity strength training, aerobic training. We need you to eat right, and we need you to do that for the next 10 to 15 years. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, why? That's so boring. It's like, yeah, but that's what it actually takes. You can go anywhere else you want and like pretend like it's gonna be faster or easier. Go for it, and then come back to me in a decade when you found out I was right. Like I just, it's just because you don't have to do it with us, but like you'll just realize that this is just has to become a part of who you are, and it's kind of frustrating and annoying. But it's not a 12-week program. It's not a 6-month cycle. It's like you just got to do it. You just got to do it forever, and nobody really wants to hear that. Well, the people who love fitness are fine with it, but the people who are kind of on the fence don't want to hear that. They're not
Yeah.
interested.
Kind of speaking of us, just the last things from the 2023 top 10 is home exercise gyms ranked 13th, and mobile exercise apps was it was net last at number 20, but that broke in there. Home exercise gyms was not on the 2012 top 20, but now it's 13th.
Garage gyms in general, and this is kind of a good segue into like evolutions of garage gyms. I was so early on that, like so early on garage gyms, like garage gym content, because I was creating that DIY stuff back in 2011, 12. Like it was before. Hey, garage gym was like it was barely a thing. Like again, it was like the fringe weirdos had one. I remember I even had an uncle, super into fitness, like he still is, like lifting weights at least and stuff. And I remember when I was telling him, like we were like visiting, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a garage gym back in 2011. He was like, dude, don't do it. Not. He's like, I was like, why not? He's like, I had a bench press in my garage once, and he's like, it's the worst thing ever. He's like, you'll like sit down to do a set, and then it's like your wife will be like, hey, you got to take out the trash, or like kids are doing something because he's my uncle, he's older than me, just further along in life. And I was like, I don't know if that's right, dude. But I'll never forget that conversation. And that's just like, it was a very odd thing. Like people didn't see the value in it. And now, I mean, where garage gyms were, like we could go so many different directions with this, from like content creators to how many people have a garage gym to the equipment. How I used to build equipment out of wood, and now that's like one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. Not because building out of wood is dangerous, it's because it's like economies of scale. Like China basically has dominated this market, and you can buy squat stands on Amazon probably for like $35 that can be delivered to your home by the end of the day, versus spending that $100-$200 for the DIY project to build them on your own. So anyway, what have you seen? Just what's your take on the evolution of garage gyms? You've been in this world with me for long enough. Like, what have you seen change?
Well, thinking of like way in the past, I think there's definitely a priority and mindset shift to it, because like thinking of the kids' houses that we would go in, or you even own, it's like, hey, you're down in the basement. It's like, there's the TV, there's the pool table, and oh yeah, there's the pec deck. Like, yeah, we have a little bit of a home gym. And it's just kind of sort of like thrown in there as an afterthought. Now it's like, hey, I'm going to set up a home gym. This is going to be the gym space. This is where I work out. Now I'm gonna make it into the gym space. And even like garages, like you cordon, you get your area kind of walled off. I know garages tend to accumulate a ton of stuff, but as long as there's that area set up, then I think it definitely changes in that regard. And with the trend of more people are thinking about, like, yeah, we need to work out, we need to do more active stuff. I think it's much more acceptable to like spouses. Like a lot of times that's a hard time with a lot of people. If one person wants to start working out and training more, the other person's kind of like, how much is that going to cost? How much time is that going to take? Where's it going to go? Like there's just some sort of, not that they're downing it. It just feels like a little bit of a negative feedback. But nowadays I think it's much more acceptable and like encouraging, and just like more things to do. And especially if you get like friend groups, or you start doing something with other people, or even like there's just so many options now, and then couples will join a lot of those things together.
Yeah, I mean, And that is true. Like if the husband and wife or whatever like aren't in agreement on like setting one up, like I think that could be a huge problem. But I do think that there's been a shift in more people having them.
So much easier to get equipment.
Yeah, but like here's just what I've noticed. Emily and I've been into real estate for a while. Like really just moving a bunch on our own is one, so that means we've been in the market for purchasing a home a lot more than average people just because of how much we've moved. So that means like in any given year, if I'm looking for a new house to buy, we could look at 30, 40 homes before we decide to buy one, or I mean, it could be 10 or like whatever. I mean, but like if you count internet searches, right, it's like probably 100 different things that we look at before we buy one. And early on when we were doing that, like the chances of there being a home gym anywhere, 0, like it just never happened. But then I've noticed in kind of these suburban neighborhoods in our area where some of my kids' friends live, like I'll see garages open and I'll see rubber mats on the floor and like a rack. Or when we would look for houses to buy more recently, I would see like, oh, this house has a garage gym. And Emily and I even own some rental properties, and this is the first time it's ever happened. They just moved in like 2 months ago. This guy's a pilot, and he messaged us and he's like, "Hey, I want to install some gym equipment in the house. Like, is this cool?" And it was literal. Like, he sent me a picture of my Rogue rack, the one that attaches to the wall or whatever. And I was like, I don't think I'm allowed to say no to this. Like, yeah, I know I'm your landlord, but like if I told someone they basically can't have a garage gym because I didn't want some holes in the wall, I think that'd go against everything, every part of who I am. So I approved it or whatever. But I'd never been asked that before. We've had rental properties for a long time, several rental properties, several tenants, a lot of turnover. No one's ever had a garage gym. And now this like guy, he's not even like like some fitness influencer. He's a pilot, like who wants to stay fit when he's home or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's been quite a change, quite an evolution in garage gyms. And then I think the only thing I haven't enjoyed about the garage gym evolution is like all these like random fitness suppliers popping up. And I think, people like Garage Gym Reviews, Coop, they do a decent job with these kind of things. I mean, I think that whole website's getting a little bit commercialized, but like I think that's what happens when you sell your company, and that's what Coop ended up doing. But anyway, they've done good job over the years of like reviewing this equipment and doing solid reviews of these things. But now there's so many like equipment suppliers popping up. People are really like gunning mainly on price these days. They're like, I don't really care. And I don't have my pulse on these things enough to know if anyone's getting hurt. You know what I mean? Like, chances are you're fine. If you're not putting most of these equipment in a commercial gym where it's going to get used and beat up and you're taking care of your stuff, it's probably fine. But it scares me a little bit with having heard horror stories of pull-up bars breaking, benches breaking, adjustable benches breaking, like while people are lifting it. These kind of things I've heard of, like direct firsthand stories, not like some Instagram post or something where I saw this video. It's like, I know of these things happening to Garage Gym Athlete members. And it's like, oh, did you get that from Rogue? It's like, no, I got it from Bebops. It's a new supplier out of China, whatever. Like, I think these are the things that you have to be careful with, the evolution of garage gym equipment. I'm not saying you have to buy everything from Rogue or what would be another high-end. Sorinex is probably in that category.
Titan's a step down. I think it's a big
Titan's
one, but it's
like,
definitely a step down.
They're a bigger name, but they're definitely like, they're getting everything from China. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, they're trying to mimic Rogue's equipment, but they're getting from China, and that's how it's cheaper. And Rogue is sourcing their steel from America or Canada and building it in-house. Like, that's the difference. And so anyway, and that's kind of this fringe sport I put in that same category. Love Fringe, love the CEO there, Peter. They have great stuff, amazing customer service, but kind of the same story. They're not trying to copy Rogue, but like most of that is sourced from China as well. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But those are kind of the levels you get. And then once you step away from those guys, like Rogue, Sorinex, and then it's like Titan, and then you got like French Sport, these kind of ones, then you're getting into like this weird category of like buyer beware. Like I hope everything's okay. And that's the only thing I haven't liked about the garage gym equipment evolution. But the evolution of everyone basically having a garage gym, I've absolutely loved that. Like it really aligns with our mission of what we're hoping for people.
So this kind of ties into a few things that you've mentioned with the celebrities getting into these spaces and equipment. And I like some like a sort of this kind of be a good thing, but it's also like, what's the point? So Gronk, the former Patriots tight end, has Gronk Fitness, and they sell and make fitness equipment. And just today, it just happened to pop up. I saw Coop reviewing their they have a leg extension and leg curl machine, and like they're making these, they're good prices for people to have at home. And these kinds of machines to have like that, or like chest presses, or calf raise machines. And I'm like, all right, I'm having a garage gym to make it efficient and to have the versatility. If I want to have all these machines, like just get a gym membership. It's going to take up so much room and cost you a ridiculous amount of money for one or two exercises that it can do. Like, so there's almost it's getting way too far to the side to do where like, okay, maybe if somebody has a barn or a warehouse and money to throw around, sure, but like a lot of this is just getting kind of crazy.
Dude, even if I had a giant barn on my property, I'd spend most of my money putting rubber floors on it because that's not cheap. And then I would still have minimal equipment. That's always been my stance, is like, if I wanted a legit belt squat machine, and then I wanted a leg press, and I wanted a chest press, and I wanted hamstring curl machine, leg extension machine, all these things. Yeah, dude, I'm getting a $50 a month membership, or even less if you go to like, what's that one? So one everyone makes fun of. Is it Planet Fitness? The Lunk Alarm?
Yeah, Lunk Alert.
Yeah, it like get a $9 a month membership and use all those same machines, right? Like there's no way I would. And it's not even a cost thing. I don't want that in my house. Like, I think it's like a monstrosity. I'm more about like the space, being able to have my kids run around, do activities, those kind of things. And that's kind of just been the garage gym athlete mentality. Has nothing to do with finances. It's just like, what can I do with minimal equipment? I don't want this stuff to own me. But like, to your point of like Gronk slapping his name on something, that's good, and that's good for him. But like, that's what's happened in the supplement industry. Is like, supplements for the most part are trash. And so all it takes now, we've talked about this, so I'm not gonna hammer it home, but like, all it takes now is someone gaining a lot of popularity. Let's say I 10x my Instagram followers, or 100x my Instagram followers. And then I'm like, you know what? It is time. It's time for a Jerred Moon protein powder. And then I just go get the same protein powder that Gronk has. But I put it's from the same manufacturer, is my point. It's like basically from the same manufacturer, but I put my brand on it. And now I'm getting people to buy it because they're like, oh, well, Jerred stands behind this. It's got to be good. And like, what you're kind of telling me now is like, oh, this is happening with fitness equipment. It's like these Chinese manufacturers who are producing for Fringe and Titan and probably these other ones. It's like Gronk can just slide in there and be like, hey, make the same thing they're making, but put my name on it. Or if I got really popular, I could just say, hey, I want a Jerred Moon leg extension machine. It's like, it's the same as all these other companies are doing, but it's got my name on it. I just don't know where that, like, it's just such a money grab, in my opinion. It's like, that's why I really respect Rogue. I just really respect them, and I hope that they don't ever change. And they're not perfect by any means, but it's like, they set out to build something quality. And that's honestly where, and like, if we took a step back and we just talked about like the world of consumer goods right now, like, it's a shit show. And it's no different in the fitness industry. It's like, I don't know if you've noticed this with like buying crap on Amazon or whatever, but like, I'll go to buy something and it's the most, I have a great example of this. I needed so we just moved into this new house, and they forgot to cover some electrical boxes. Like they're not actual electrical boxes. They're like electrical box junctions that just need like a plate for it to be covered. So like nothing goes there. It's basically a blank plate, right? They're white. It matches the wall color, and it's only like 2 of them that I need in the whole house. These things are like 70 cents. Okay. And so instead of having the electrician come back out, I was like, I'll just do this. And I ordered them on Amazon. But it was like, it had like 4,000 5-star reviews. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a plate. It comes with 2 screws. It goes in the wall. It can't be good or bad. Like the only thing that it could only be bad. Like that's the only thing this thing could do is like it could not screw into the wall or not come with screws. You know what I'm saying? So, but like there's some algorithm, there's some game they're playing to get 4,000 5-star reviews. That's BS, man. Like something's going on there. Some algorithm, some way they're cheating the system. Like I just don't even believe it anymore when I run into these reviews. And then you get it and it's this cheap, flimsy piece of plastic that's like a little bit warped. I'm like, there's no way this is happening. And I think it's happening with so many products right now. You go on Amazon, you want a new pair of shorts, right? So you're like, ooh, this has got a lot of reviews, but they just played the game too. However you play that game. I'm not in e-commerce at all, so I don't really know. And then you get the shorts. They last for 45 days under normal wear and tear. And you're like, oh, well, those weren't actually that good. And it's like, well, that company doesn't even really exist anymore. So you have to try something else. That actually happened to me, by the way, the shorts thing. Like Emily bought me this amazing pair of shorts. I really liked them. They were like the perfect running short, but they weren't $110 like buying from Bird Dog or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I was like, these are great. I was like, I'm just gonna get like 10 pair of these. And then we went back to Amazon. The company didn't exist anymore. And those shorts didn't end up lasting much longer than a few months as far as like quality and washes and all this other stuff. But that's the way the world is headed. So I prefer to buy quality when I can. If there's a company that's actually doing things right, trying to build high quality stuff, that's what I'm into. Like that's what I want to own, not just from a garage gym equipment standpoint, but from most of the things I'm trying to buy these days.
Yeah, I dive into a lot of the Amazon reviews if it's a brand that I'm not sure of, especially kind of clothes, and like just see how they fit, see how they hold up. And to your point of like that product having 5,000 reviews for something stupid. So I went to buy stuff before, and if you look at the reviews, it will be a completely different product in the reviews. It's like It's like they change the product. Like it's like they somehow change the picture, change the cost of the product, and somehow it doesn't make it a new product. They just edit it so that it beefs up and seems like that. So they can just swap out a product and just keep on having those reviews, and it's not even related, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happening with garage gym equipment, and like now anybody can get started and be a garage gym supplier. And I just don't really understand the motivation behind these things. For somebody who's like maybe somebody like me, it doesn't make sense. Like it wouldn't make sense for me to pour all my time and energy to like pass off a crappy product. You know what I mean? Like just to try and make some money. Like to me, it doesn't make sense to do business that way. If I honestly wanted to start a fitness equipment company, I would probably end up doing something like Rogue. Like my dad and my brother, just like they were welders, like not for a living, but my dad welded growing up, like as a job. Then he went a completely different direction. My brother learned how to weld and did that as a job for a while too, before he went an entirely different direction. So anyway, like that skill set's in my family. I'd be like, hey guys, we're going to weld some shit. Like, let's build some actual, like, awesome equipment. Like, let's overbuild it. Let's, you do some amazing things. And I remember when I ordered my first Rogue rack, my dad, being a welder, like, looked at this and was like, damn. Like, he was looking at actually, like, where they had welded it together. Like, in some of the spots, he's like, these are really legit welds. He was impressed. And, like, him being impressed by it is, like, something that's kept me around and something I pay attention to, even if I buy, like, a new Rogue product. And then I can tell when I buy crappier products that it's like just barely tacked together. Like the weld is like kind of crappy. It's like you don't know if that'll last forever. And so yeah. Anyway, I'm not saying all this stuff to like just love on Rogue and hate on any other companies, but I think quality is one of the biggest shifts I've seen.
Yeah, I think we've gotten probably at least one email per week from some sort of international equipment company that wants us to sell and put their stuff on our site, of like whether it's wrist straps or medicine balls or plates or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, we could probably wrap it up here, man. Like I do want to save like the kids conversation and the AI and tech wearables, because those could that's a huge can of worms. But that's kind of what we've seen in the fitness industry and garage gyms. Like I said, kind of a different type of episode here. But if you like it, please give us some feedback. We'd love to hear more. For all the garage gym athletes out there doing our training, we really appreciate it. And for anyone who wants to get started, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. And we would love to have you. That's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.